Hello and welcome to Hixxy Studio. In this video I'm going to show you how to make this shaker card, and it's using something, the technique for the shaker is something I'd not seen before but I found on YouTube, so I will share that with you later. But the stamp that we're using is this set from Julie Hickey. It's a fairly new set. It's called Garden Blooms, and you'll notice that actually it's reversed, and you'll see why in a moment, because we're going to stamp on the acetate, heat emboss it and turn it over so that we can paint it. Okay, so we're going to start with the stamping onto acetate. Now it's really important to make sure you have heat resistant acetate. I do. This is. However, I also had some acetate which said it was for use in one of the hot foiling machines. So I thought, oh, that'll work. And this is what happened. So be really careful. You do need to make sure that you have the heat resistant acetate for your projects, because otherwise it'll end up like that. So we are going to use the foil press because I find not the foil press. What am I on about? I'm talking about foiling machines. My stamping platform. Oh, which is there? Because I find when I'm stamping onto acetate that I tend to slide around, and I think having the magnet to hold the acetate in place is a useful thing. Now you see I've got a little mark there. That's just because I have cut my acetate to the size that I want for my shaker aperture. Okay, so we're going to grab the stamp and I'm going to place it. I'm going to turn my stamp platform around for the minute, just so that I can position it. Now you've got to bear in mind, I can see that that's not up on the thing. Bear in mind that there will be a border around here, keeping it in, so you don't want it to go right down to the bottom or to the edges. So you're looking to place it roughly in the middle. I might put one up there just to stop it moving up there. Okay, and then I'm going to bring a platform down and bring it up. Now before I stamp, I am going to use my anti-static bag. Acetate is very best, will attract the embossing powder. So I'm just doing the best that I can. You can see that it's not quite up there. To reduce the excess finger marks and things that will attract the embossing powder. So we're using versafine clear. Ooh, knocking everything over as we go. Clear embossing powder, and I just got my little bit of copy of paper ready so that we can do our oh, the lid doesn't want to come off. There we go. Better that the lid is tight so that the air doesn't get into it. It makes it tricky. Okay, you can see other colours on this stamp. That's where I've used it on other projects. So we are going to just make sure that's nice and inked up, because I would prefer not to have to go back over it with it being on acetate. So I am going to make sure that I have pressed down everywhere. Still bound to have missed some pieces, but we will see. I'm trying to make sure I've got that all down. And yeah, I'm happy with that. So what I'm going to do is take that out. I'm in no hurry. Sometimes on card, you need to be in a little bit of a hurry to get your embossing powder on. Oh, I can see that I've just swiped my jumper in it. You can see there, but we'll go ahead because you'll get the idea. Just it doesn't dry very quickly. It was the point of what I was making. Because it's on acetate, this versafine is not going to dry of its own accord. So you have that little bit of time. Whereas on some cards, the card will sort of drink the ink in. And what I'm going to try to do, I'm going to try to just get a little bit of towel and see if I can wipe the worst of that smear off. There's another, like so. And now it doesn't look so bad. The other thing I'm just going to do is I'm getting a dry brush. Make sure it's dry, otherwise all it will do is move stuff around. And I'm just looking for any bits where I might not really want the powder to have stuck. Mostly sort of around the edges, but I seem to have not done too badly with that. Okay, put that there. Oh, and I can see by doing that I've just knocked a little bit of the powder off. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use my fingers. I'm going to go back over those bits there where I knocked the powder off. Okay, I'm faffing. But hey ho. That's my getting to the end of this pot of embossing powder, and it is getting a little bit manky with all the bits in it, but it still does the job. So okay, so I'm going to turn my heat gun on and I'm going to let it heat up a little bit because once it's nice and hot, it will melt the powder quicker, and you don't want your heat gun pointing at your acetate for longer than you need to. So I'm just letting it heat up. I'm just sort of feeling my heat gun here. And we'll just, the other thing, this one has 2 settings, but I very rarely use the lower one. Because I find, oh, there we go, that's nice and hot. So we are, so let's go. And I can see, I'm trying to catch it with the light, so I'm trying to see where it's melted. Try and move the gun on as soon as you can see that the powder has melted. And I'm going to move it away, and I'm just going to have another check. There we go. Right. So as you can see, even with heat resistant, you get a little bit of buckling, but nowhere near as much as that other piece. Okay, so we've now got that heat emboss, and now I want to colour it. I'm going to I'm going to put it on a piece of white paper so that we can see it, and I am going to paint it on the reverse. Now, if you're painting onto acetate, you need something that is going to bind whatever you're painting with to the acetate. Sometimes even acrylic paints will just peel off once they're completely dry. So what I'm using is a combination of the Cosmic Shimmer acrylic glue, and I know that that binds because I've done techniques in the past where you cover the acetate, put Pixie sparkles or things on the back, and then when it dries it's all stuck. So I am going with the Cosmic Shimmer glue, and I'm also going to use these Hixxy bursts, which are fairly new out. So they have been an addition to the Pixie range. There are Pixie powders, Pixie sparkles, Pixie sparkle highlights, and these Pixie bursts. So the Pixie bursts are just pigment. They don't have any mica in them, whereas the Pixie powders have a mica powder and the Pixie sparkles have larger mica particles which make them more sparkly. So we are going to use these 3. Now you can see I've only got 2 colours here, and that's because I realised this is it's a lovely green, but it wasn't quite what I wanted for the card. And I was just playing, and I mixed the Firefly Glow and the Making Waves, and it made this gorgeous kind of teal green. So that's what I'm going to do. I need a little water spray here, because the pixies are activated by water, and this is a little thick to paint with. So I've got another piece of acetate, and actually I'll get another piece of paper to put under this. And the reason I'm doing this, mixing them on acetate, is because this is a glue, and I could do it on here, but I'd have to clean up, and it's just easier for sort of cleaning up to do it on here. So I'm going to I'm just going to start with the one colour. We'll do the orange first. So I've got some of the acrylic glue, and I've got an old brush. It's okay, but you do need to make sure that you clean your brushes if you're using them with the acrylic glue quite well. So I just go with an old brush just in case I don't get it cleaned properly. So before I add the Pixie burst, I'm going to just spray this with a little bit of water. So I've watered that down. I'm not going to mix it yet, and then I'm going to use the orange slice. Okay, now I am painting on the side that we have embossed. Okay, and then these are really, really intense colours, so you don't need a huge amount. That said, I always use far too much of these pixies. So you can already see how it is starting to wick, if you like, with the water. The one thing I would say is when you're mixing up the Pixie sparkles or the Pixie bursts, the sparkles or the powders with water, with gesso, with like I'm doing with the acrylic glue, you end up with a mix of all the pigments. So for example, if the component pigments were just think maybe a yellow and a blue and a green, when you mix them with something, you would just end up with the green. You wouldn't see the individual pigments. It's just like mixing all the colours together. But I love this because this is such a lovely, intense orange. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to just paint over. And it doesn't matter that you're going over the black. Obviously you want to stay inside the petals, but it doesn't really matter that you're going over the black here. And partly it will repel it anyway. And the other thing is we're going to turn this over, so you'll still see the black embossed line on the other side. Okay, so I've gone a little bit there. So literally I'm just putting, and you can see it does push it away a little bit from the edge, the embossed lines. So you get that kind of little halo, which is quite nice. Now this does take a while, and it does depend on how much water, and I put quite a bit of water with this. It does depend, well, A, on how much water, and B, sort of the temperature of the room. But it's really important that you leave it to dry completely before you try and assemble your shaker card. Otherwise, what you're going to end up with is all your shaker bits sticking to this, because essentially it is a glue. Okay, so that's the orange, and I'm just going to give my brush a really good rinse. And like you can see, I've made far too much. So we will repeat that now with the other two of our pixie bursts. So I'm going to put some more glue down and a spray of water, and just going to make sure that brush is clean, which is it's not. Can you see that I have not completely cleaned that brush? That said, it could be that I've got pixie bursts on here, so I'm just going to grab my piece of picture on there. We're okay. Right, so as I said, this was a happy accident. I was doing this and I mixed up the blue, and then I mixed up the green. It's like, oof, not sure they are lovely colours, but they weren't the colour that I wanted. And so I just kind of smushed them together. And that was like, whoa, that's a really lovely teal kind of colour. So this is let's put this one on first. This is kind of what I would call a moss green. The predominant colour is like a moss green, but there's also kind of a gold tone to it. And you can see already here, you can see that really dark green that it's going, and some lighter green. And then this, so that was firefly glow. And then the other one that I've got is making waves, and this is a really intense blue. So let's put that on there, so you can see those are my two. And then I am literally just going to mix them together now. There we go. Now what I might do, oh, there we go. I was going to say I might add some more, but actually now that I've mixed in, I'm going to add some more blue, because that's quite green and I want it more on the teal side. I'll put a bit more blue in, and a little more spray of water, because that does feel quite thick. Right, there we go. That is a really beautiful. Now I'm doing it with acrylic glue. You could just mix them on your page. You could mix them just with water. But I love that colour. I just think it's amazing. So just like we did with the flowers, all I'm doing is putting the colour inside the leaves. Like I say, even where these leaves overlap, because you've got the embossed line, that embossed line will still show on the other side. So even if I go over like that, A, it's repelling it, and B, on the other side, when you turn it over, you will see the embossed line. Okay. I am not going to finish this off, because obviously this has got to dry before I can use it. So I already have one that I've done, but you can see how I've created the image. So I'm just going to put my brush in the water. I'm going to leave it in the water for a bit. I know you shouldn't leave brushes in the water, but it's an old brush. It's got glue on it, so I just want to be a little bit careful. So we're going to put these somewhere that I'm not going to roll my chair over them and spread glue all over the floor. Now those two blobs will eventually dry as well, and they can be die cut. So if you wanted to just leave them, then there's no reason why not. Okay, so onto the shaker bit. So here is my one that I've already done. So this is the side I painted on, and then I'm turning it over. That's the side that we're going to see, which is why the image is reversed from the actual stamp. So now this is the bit that let me grab my other bit too so I can show you what I'm doing. So I've got my base card, and that's my big background. I've cut
my frame, and I put some red liner tape on already, and I put red liner tape on my image, and those two sort of go together. Now this, I did this, but actually I don't really need this. I'm still going to use it because it does help me with placing. But after I'd done it, I thought that was a bit silly because I've already got that card on the back anyway. But I'm going to use it just for placement. This is the bit that I found quite interesting because when I've seen, I've not made a lot of shaker cards, mostly because it involves loads of foam tape and making sure that you've got no gaps in your foam tape, and then taking all the backs off. So I find it a little bit of a faff. However, I found a lawn fawn video where she used, ordinary like children's funky foam type stuff. And this is quite thick. You can get various thicknesses, but this is quite a thick one. And all she did is what I've done here, and that is to cut your frame out of funky foam. That then provides you with the depth that you need to hold all your shaker bits, and then there's just red liner tape on that which will go down. And I am going to use this because it's the same size. I cut them all the same size, so this and the acetate. And I thought, wow, this just gets rid of all the sticky edges you get in here. And it means you can actually just place all your shaker bits in and stick the top on. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to grab my pokey tool. Goodness me, brain is not quite engaging yet today. Okay, now I'm not going to take all of the tape off. Okay, I use red line. I don't use a lot of tape. I used to use tape to stick everything down. I was not a wet glue kind of crafter. And then I got onto a couple of different teams, and we used wet glue, and it was kind of like a revelation. So why have I been using tape when I can use wet glue? However, that said, there are places for tape. This is one of the reasons why I don't like tape. But this is a little tip that I've got. If you do use a lot of tape, around something like this, is not to remove it all. So if you've got a bit of backing paper that you're putting on, is to just remove from each sort of corner a small bit and bend it back. The thing with tape is it's kind of almost, well, it's not almost, it is pretty much an instant grab. This is why I don't like tape. There we go. I say there you go. Goodness me. That said, I've seen them on the TV having difficulties with tape as well, so it isn't just me or you. So yeah, so then I fold it back. Now the red liner carrier, the red carrier, doesn't hold its fold quite as well as if you're using sort of finger lift tape or just ordinary double-sided tape, but it does do it. Now what this allows you to do is allows you some wiggle room, making sure those little bits are sticking out, which is not always the easiest with the red liner. So that one's decided it's going back in. Right, let's just proceed with what we've got so far. So you have these bits sticking out, and it allows you that little bit of wiggle room before you commit to where you're sticking things. So now I can push this bit down and this bit. So I know those two are secure. I'm going to find that little bit there, and that sticks there. So you can see, if I had taken all of it off, that would have been stuck probably in the wrong place. I wouldn't have this time. So now all you do is you just pull those bits and you can now stick them on. Excuse me. Like so.
Now, I'm not too worried that this is bowing out slightly. Better that than in, because the inner aperture part of my frame here is the same size. Okay, the outer is wider, so it's a bit more forgiving, but the inner is the same. So the next stage is to put all your things that you want into your shaker. And I just got, I think they're called bugle beads, but I'm sure somebody who knows more about beads and beading will be able to correct me if I'm wrong. It's one of those things. I've got a huge collection of beads for no apparent reason other than they were nice and I like them. So I'm putting in, I've got kind of this dark orange, this lighter orange, and this. Now, this is another reason why having this back is not too bad an idea. It's because I can fiddle around with this before it's anywhere near my card. So I've now got my little bits of shaker. They're not sticking to the edges here because there's no bits of the glue pads there. And it allows me, I need to make sure they're all flat. Oh, these ones are sticking together. Make sure they're all flat. That's why you do need quite a deep funky foam. Otherwise, you're not going to have room for things to move. So next job is to stick our acetate down. Okay. I will say with this, because we've heated the acetate, it does bow a little like I showed you. So when you do it, we're going to sort of push from the bottom, push up, and then deal with the buckles when we get up to the top. But in theory, we're going to follow the same procedure as we did before. Lift the pieces of tape, and it is easier off of the acetate than it was off of the foam. I think partly because the foam is sort of flexible, maybe, when you push on it, it sort of moves down. So there's our 4 pieces of tape. Okay. Oh. Again, like I say, make sure it's all flat in there. And we're going to aim for the bottom first. Okay. You can see this isn't straight, but again, this is not going to be of an issue. So I'm going to pull that one a bit. Oh, that one needs, this needs. The funky foam is quite forgiving of this red liner tape. As you saw me just pull it up there. I'm making quite a meal of this. I'm not worried. What I am worried about is getting... Right, let me explain what I'm faffing with. What I don't really want is the red liner tape hanging over the top of that foam, because just like when you've got the foam tape, you then got stickiness, which your little shaky bits will adhere to. So what I'm trying to do is to make sure that bits of tape are kind of inside or along the white foam. Now that is better. That is definitely better. So I'm going to stick those 2 there. And I'm going to pull this bit off at the bottom. Come on. When you're at home and doing this in your own time, take your time. I'm trying to not hurry, but to not sort of take too much time here. So, okay, what I'm now going to do is to move this on up. Now I do have some bits of tape there, but for the sake of what I'm doing, I'm going to keep going. What you do need to do is to make sure that the acetate is taped down to all of
you can see what I mean, where I've got this little buckle at the top now, where the acetate isn't flat because we heat emboss. But it's important to make sure that all of this tape makes contact with that foam, because if it doesn't, that's when your shaker things will escape. And you can see here, this is what I was trying to avoid, but unfortunately I haven't. Will I be able to move it a little bit? Maybe. Let's see. What's happened is I've got the tape here and it's sticking. So I'm going to be a bit of a pickle and have another go at this. Because what I'm trying to avoid is my little shaker pieces sticking to the tape. There, that's better. That is better. And again, like I'm moving up from the sides. Get my little buckle at the top, so I just need to make sure I press down. Okay, so now my shaker bits didn't stick anywhere other than little bits like here where they're tighter. But that's okay because they will move once we give them a good shape. There we go, like so. Right, so let's start assembling the rest of the card. I think that maybe if I did this again, I would make the acetate a little wider than this, so that I could put the tape right to the edge of the acetate, and then it would catch this part, and I wouldn't run that risk of it catching in the middle. You can't do anything about the buckling. You're heating acetate. Acetate is plastic. It's going to buckle. It's just a case of trying to reduce the buckling where you can. Okay, so I'm going to position this on there and press down, and then I've got my now again I could use acrylic glue, but the trouble with using the acrylic glue and sticking it to acetate, it takes a while to dry, whereas this red liner tape has got a nice instant grab and a really good adhesion. So just it's a case of using the right adhesive for the job. And I kind of look like I've overlapped that one a little bit, not to worry. Okay, so I've got my 4 little bits. That one's not pulled up enough. Oh, come on. So I'm just going to now position this so that I'm covering all my bits and pieces, and then just pull off those like so. I'm just gonna try and get rid of the red liner tape, but it looks like it wants to hold on to me. Okay, so there is the base of the shaker. So all we're going to do is add my sentiment here, and I have a little bow to go up the top, and I'm going to use 3D glue gel for this, because this will also adhere through to the acetate, but also to the card, so it will stick onto the card. Okay, and there we have our shaker card. So we have used the gorgeous Garden Blooms stamp from Julie Hickey Designs. Like I said, they are her latest range. And then I've used these again, these are fairly new too. These Pixie Bursts, Orange Slice, I can't say that, Firefly Glow, and Making Waves to paint it. And then we've made it into this lovely shaker card using the funky foam and not 3D, the foam tape. Okay, thank you for joining me.